A box plot is often also called a box and whisker plot. It is another visual representation of data. There are a lot of key features that we need to know in order to be able to create our box plot. The first is an interquartile range. First, you need to understand and remember that your data must be sorted from smallest to largest value. Then your interquartile range will represent the middle 50% of this data set. This is very important so that way we could figure out outliers. The formula that you're going to use for this is going to be taking the third quartile value and subtracting off the first quartile value. This is what we call the IQR, or the interquartile range. You are just finding the difference between the two values. Now, your interquartile range is important because it helps us to find the boundary values that we can identify are outliers that will skew our data set. The lower outlier boundary. You're going to find this boundary value by taking the lower quartile and subtracting off 1.5 times the IQR, or the interquartile range. What this is going to do is it's going to then find the boundary that we can use to cut off between our data set and a potential outlier. It might not give us any outliers, but it will tell us the boundary of where they could lie. For our upper outlier boundary, we're going to start with our upper quartile or third quartile, and now we're going to add 1.5 times our interquartile range. This will give us a value that will now be our upper cutoff to determine if we have any outliers on the right-hand side of our data set. Again, we may or may not have any outliers, but these boundary values will help us determine that. Our 5 number summary statistics are what we need in order to be able to create our box plot. These are the minimum, Q sub 1, median, Q sub 3, and maximum data values. Since we are taking our data set, ordering or sorting the data values, and cutting the data values into chunks, we don't want to round any of those values. Even if cutting those into specific parts yields a decimal, we don't want to round because they are boundaries. Instead, you'll use the exact value and include the units for your data set. We have a calculator feature that is going to help us do all the calculations for our 5 number summary statistics. First, you're going to enter the data into the list feature. Next, in the statistics area under calculate, we're now going to use the 1VAR-Stats feature. For your work technique submission, I'm going to show you what you need to write on your paper in order to receive full credit for this. First, you're going to let me know that you're using the 1VAR-Stats. Next, in the list, you are going to describe the data set with units. Please make sure that you give a full description and including your units. Also, these are the only 2 key features that you will need to include when using the 1VAR-Stats for creating a box plot. And make sure that you write on your paper exactly the way that I'm showing you, stacking the 1VAR-Stats calculator feature and the list description directly underneath.